It begins in a beautiful but remote stretch of wilderness. A family is on summer vacation and goes on a driving tour of the country. After hours on the road, they decide to pull over to a pleasant spot for a little picnic. Mom and Dad, a couple of kids, and Grandma, all traveling together. One big, happy family. It's a perfect place to relax and enjoy the natural surroundings. The food is pretty good too. All in all, a wonderful lunch. But after a while, Grandma starts to feel a little ill at ease. Maybe it's the sun, or just all the driving.
I'm really not feeling well. I think I'll go back to the car and lay down.
She decides to go rest in the shade of the car while the others finish eating.
You think she's gonna be okay?
She's fine.
Grandma gets comfortable in the back seat while the kids play and Mom and Dad just enjoy the moment. A little later, they pack up their picnic gear and head back to the car. But there, in the back seat, Grandma is fast asleep, or so it appears.
Mom! Oh my God.
To their dismay, when they try to wake her, they discover that she has died. The kids are a little frightened, and the parents aren't sure what to do. There's no way to contact anyone out here for help. They can't leave Grandma here, but the car is full, and no way will the kids ride alongside a corpse.
I'm not riding with a dead body. Nuh-uh.
Debating over what to do, they come to one unavoidable solution. They decide to wrap her up in the picnic blanket and tie the body down to the roof of the car. It's a very irreverent treatment of Grandma. But what other choice do they have?
What was I supposed to do?
Then they make their way back from the wilderness to civilization. When they come upon a convenience store, they pull in and race inside. Dad asks to use the phone, while Mom comforts the children.
Hi, I need some help here. I need an ambulance sent over or something. My wife's mother passed away, and we have her, if you can believe this, we have her body on top of my car.
Dad reports the situation to the police, who say they'll be right over.
Thank you.
With some relief, Dad begins to see the end of this little nightmare. But as the family exits the store, they discover to their horror that the car has been stolen. A darkly humorous tale of tragedy. But is it for real? And why does the tale have such staying power? One reason may be that it's a safe way to confront a reality that modern urban culture is reluctant to face.
Here in America, we are so far removed from how we used to deal with death. 150 years ago, when someone died in our community, everyone would be involved in preparing the body, preparing the grave. Here we are a century and a half later, where the preparation of a body is done in a funeral parlor. Most people we know have not seen or touched a dead body very often, if at all. It is therefore terrifying to them. We have become more and more afraid of our own reaction to death, which is the bottom line, and I think the bottom line that probably compels and creates the myths.
Stories of missing bodies go far back into history, but the current versions of this legend emerged after World War II, and they all involve similar elements. It's always a remote location. It's usually a close relative who's died. The body is always unceremoniously wrapped up for transport, and it's always tied to the roof rack. It's never left in the back seat or stuffed into the trunk. European versions sometimes add the dilemma of crossing international borders with a corpse in tow. Perhaps most striking is that in all these versions, no tears are shed over Grandma. Her untimely death is a problem to be dealt with, rather than an occasion for mourning. The legend's treatment of the body is in deliberate contrast with the reverent way in which most cultures deal with human remains.
Every culture in the history of mankind has created its own traditions within the idea of disposal of remains, and more importantly within the idea of the memorial services that help people to actually say goodbye.
This universal need to shroud the sadness of death with ceremony is most vividly illustrated by the burial rituals of Bali. Here, funerals are cause for celebration because they're performed to assure the passage of the soul into heaven. Village craftsmen build a portable funeral tower and move the body to a lake with considerably more dignity than grandma on the roof of the car. There it's placed in a tent of bamboo and set aflame. When the body has been reduced to ashes, they're raked together and scattered at sea, liberating the soul. But fire rituals aren't consigned to traditional cultures. Cremation has become an increasingly popular choice in more modern societies, and with it, an imaginative variety of ways to finally deal with a loved one's earthly remains.
We are seeing a new proliferation of memorial products, given the boomer population growing older. They would range anywhere from shooting your cremated remains into fireworks to having the cremated remains molded into coral reefs that are set out into the ocean, to the latest life gem diamonds where the carbon of a loved one is turned into a real diamond.
Perhaps the most unique option is provided through Celestis Incorporated, a company that will launch your remains into orbit. Ashes are placed in a capsule with the person's name inscribed and then sent into space on a rocket. Once there, they will circle the Earth and then re-enter the atmosphere in a dazzling final tribute. This cosmic treatment of the body is worlds away from the indignity of the urban legend. Perhaps the key to why the legend persists is found in the irreverent treatment of the corpse in the story. There's something morbidly funny about the hassle of dealing with a dead body. Movies like Weekend at Bernie's and National Lampoon's Vacation use it as a comedy premise. The question is, why?
In our society, the most common way people indirectly express fear is anger. The second most common way is, guess what? Humor.
I'm not riding with a dead body. Nuh-uh. No.
Gallows humor as a phrase, or nervous laugh, pretty much explains the phenomenon of the end of the myth, of why humor is injected. We are afraid of our sad feelings because we have been taught that they're not okay. So the myth persists, the humors persist, because we're afraid to say the truth.
Although the story persists, the legend is untrue. There's no record of a stolen car with a grandma on the roof rack. Certainly the body would be discarded by the crook and discovered by the law. But such is not the case. In the legend of the runaway grandma, death takes place from natural causes. But in other legends, death is brought on perhaps by a curse.